CNU on this PP. Am I old? I don't get it.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be having a look at the changelogs for War Thunder over the last week since the updates Red Skies. There's been a lot of stuff that has changed in the game. Normally after major updates in War Thunder, what you end up having is a ton of fixes and also a ton of changes which may have or have not been done because of the update itself. So we start off with update 2.7.0.16. This was on the 3rd of June, and they fixed a few bugs. So a bug which would result in the incorrect trajectory of anti-tank guided missiles after being launched has been fixed. According to some sources, basically missiles would be fired and then they would hit the ground very close to them. I think this was more down to the missile itself was overcorrecting while trying to get to the center point, and now that has been fixed. I thought overall it wasn't that much of an issue, but it seems like it was a lot of issues for people who were trying to use ATGM launchers to camp behind stuff and couldn't work out the trajectory. The K2, the lack of materials comprising the deck has been fixed, so I suppose that's good, making sure it's realistic. A bug that prevented AI aircraft from taking off from carriers in the historical mission Fate of Ryu has been fixed. Well, I suppose that's good as well. I don't really... Well, I need to play some of the historical missions again, have a bit of fun with them. The Mi-28M, the armor material of the pilot's door has been fixed, so there you go. And the C-Vixen FAW Mark II, the combined weapon presets with the 1,000-pound bombs has been added, so you're able to get the 1,000-pound bombs alongside other stuff, which is obviously quite nice. There was an issue with the C-Vixen though. It seemed to be duplicating where its munitions were on certain pylons, meaning that they were kind of stuck inside each other, but I'm pretty sure they fixed that pretty quick. There was also another changelog on the 3rd. Remember, this was the day after the launch of Update Red Skies, so normally you get a bunch of fixes in those days. And the first part of it was a bug where it was sometimes impossible to shoot again after using shell chase mode in naval battles has been fixed. This was an issue that was on the dev server. I personally have the shell chase camera turned off in naval battles. I understand if people want to use it for cinematic purposes or to see where their shells are landing, but for me personally, I value much more the idea of sequential fire when using my guns. Also, the Linux client crash when clicking the make a screenshot button has been fixed, which is nice. A client crash when using the download additional content only in the hangar feature has been fixed. That could have been a bit of an issue. The Sagittario 2, a bug with the missing air brake has been fixed. This was actually a bug on the dev server. I'm kind of surprising that nobody caught it on the second dev server. By the way, the Sagittario 2 is an insanely good aircraft right now. I've done a few videos on it showing its capabilities. It is ridiculous at 8.0. That thing is either going to get a serious FM fix, because I don't think its flight model is historical at all, or it's going to go up in BR pretty sharpishly. One of the two is going to happen. The C-Vixen FAW Mark II, or maybe its repair cost goes through the roof, by the way. The C-Vixen FAW Mark II, the 1,000-pound bombs have been changed to 1,000 LBGP Mark 1s, so just specifying them to the British versions that they used. And then the P39Q5 and N0, a bug has been fixed that showed empty M8 tubes when the 500-pound bombs, the AN M64A1, was installed. So a bit of a bug there with the new addition to the planes, which is the 500-pound bomb. If you already had those vehicles spaded and fully modified, well, they've got a new modification now, so you've got to go back and get that done. The P400, they've also fixed a bug that prevented the displaying of 500-pound bombs. So the P400, you'll be able to see everything now, which is lovely. On the 4th, they also did a ton of changes in 2.7.0.19, affecting ground, aircraft, and also sound. The big stuff was sound, though, for this day. In ground vehicles, the STRV-122B PLSS, a bug where the controls for the commander's optics would rotate together with the optics module in the X-ray view of the vehicle, has been fixed. So, making sure the commander's view worked properly. The PLSS, it probably works or makes the most sense with this vehicle since it has the commander optic that can move up and down. A bug where allied vehicles would receive pressure damage as if their armor was ignored when other nearby allied vehicles were struck with a HE shell has been fixed. So no more 3Ks or 4Ks with one HE shell. Also, I think this fixed the bomb issue as well, where if you were bombing targets, you could kill like 3 or 4 or even 6 or 7 people at one time. Obviously, people favored the PE8 while doing this, but even when I was researching and spading out the Concept 3 using the P47 and the 1000 pounders and the 500, I was able to kill 3 or 4 tanks at a time on the first day. Thank God that got fixed and that wasn't something that they wanted in the game, because that could have been a real issue. The Centurion Mark I, a bug where the commander's sight camera would not work due to an unfinished model, has been fixed. So that's good, fixing the commander's stuff. I'm still up in the air about the commander's views. I don't generally think they're that good. At least at the tiers that I've been playing, maybe at higher echelons, they are very good. But the major thing that the Commander's View has given me personally is it's made that when my gunner's dead in some vehicles, I can still fire at the enemy. And that is obviously very useful. But the actual Commander's View itself, I'm not sure its actual uses, apart from maybe night battles. We'll have to see going forward. I might just be using it wrong. The aircraft and helicopter changes too, so the J6B, Jacobi's J8A, the Saab B-17B, B-71A and J-22A, an erroneous round from the armored targets ammunition belt from the 8mm KSP-M22 machine gun with an armor penetration of 23mm has been removed. A duplicate belt for ground targets has also been removed. So they probably won't have the same penetration as they had before. A bug that caused the periodic flares firing function not to work has been fixed. Well, that's good, obviously for higher echelon vehicles, especially now more things have flares. The TAR-152H1, a bug which would cause missing textures around the engine area, has been fixed. In the F4F early, they fixed a bug that enabled the gunner view on this aircraft. So that was kind of interesting. For some reason, this happened not just on this Phantom, but on another one as well, I believe on the dev server, or maybe a previous dev server. For some reason, you could just go into a gunner view with the which would look behind you on the F4F, and I don't really know why. Maybe somebody just left it in there, maybe they're testing something, but it's just kind of funny to me. And then the 50 cal Browning M2, the rate of fire for all aircraft with this weapon reduced to 750 RPM. So it doesn't have as much firepower now, but it does mean your rounds will last longer, and since a lot of stuff with 50 cals already hit like a truck, they'll hit a little bit less like a truck, but you'll have more ammunition over time, therefore you should be able to control your shots better, therefore you should be able to be fine. The next one is the sound stuff. So artillery explosion sounds have been improved and are now more powerful. Now they'll be louder at lower frequencies and will not be suppressed by other sounds easily. Yep, artillery is very loud right now, incredibly loud in the ears, and I think that's fine. You know, the general idea of artillery is it's supposed to be landing around you, so therefore it should be quite loud. The sounds of firing the machine guns on ground vehicles has been improved, and firing sounds in the medium frequency range has been added. So this is a change I disagree with. After playing stuff with 50 cals and MG3s recently, I think they sound awful. They sound like they're firing wet bullets, I think is the best way of putting it. And I really think when it comes to changes like this, somebody is really trying to justify their job. And I don't know why. The change was unnecessary. It makes the ground machine gun sound awful. it doesn't need to be done. The fire rate sounds up to 1000 RPM for machine guns have been fixed, and once again, they don't sound good. They really don't sound good after this change. The changes in the sounds of machine gun fire for naval forces, which would occur as the distance between the gun and listener increased, have been made more explicit, so that's good, and the volume of the ground vehicle's suspension as it bounces up and down will now depend on the player's engine volume setting. So you'll be able to hear it loud, medium, quiet, depending on what you have your engine set to. If you want to turn it all the way down to 50, so you can hear some others, you probably won't hear the suspension too much either. The voice notification about approaching Allied mines and torpedoes during naval battles has been fixed. What, does it still go, mine, mine, mine? Oh, it's so fun. Mine ahead, mine at stern. I love that stuff. It's really fun. A bug where the notification about approaching enemy torpedoes in naval battles would be too late to trigger has also been fixed. So that's nice, actually. I was using a bunch of destroyers the other day. They've made them incredibly tanky and also reduced torpedoes' usefulness because of the speed that they go at. So therefore, destroyer battles are going to be longer and people are going to get less damage, less kills, less RP, and I feel like people are going to be annoyed by that. I personally don't really like the change. From just a point of view, it was quite fun playing stuff like that before because the TTK was quite low and therefore you could switch targets quickly and move around stuff, but I suppose this makes destroyers a lot more useful against cruisers, which is probably the reason why they've done this. We also had a server update on the 4th as well, and what happened here was changes to Enduring Confrontation and a few other things as well. So all missions in Enduring Confrontation, a bug that would fix AI strike aircraft to be unable to find the correct targets and therefore not appear in the battle, has been fixed. So therefore they'll be able to see the targets now. A bug that would cause AI strike aircraft to fly around the last point of their designated route at the edge of the location also has been fixed. So they'll also be able to go home now. And on Sicily and Denmark, which are two of the newer maps to EC, now in these two missions, built using the previously introduced new logic, up to 2 ground battles may start at the beginning of a mission, allowing players using strike aircraft to go to battle immediately after the mission has started. So there you go. That's quite nice. They've also changed some visuals. The size of marks left by 76mm naval rounds after striking a point has been increased, and the visibility of tracer rounds in naval has been improved. This is one of the things that has been quite nice, especially in naval. They've just made the tracers be a lot more pungent, so you can see them a lot easier from afar, and that just means that being able to hit targets from afar, I think, works incredibly well. The fleet characteristics, models, damage model, and armaments have also been changed. A bug relating to the calculation of damage has been fixed. Previously, it prevented some projectiles, especially HE rounds, from dealing the correct amount of damage. So maybe that means that stuff such as destroyers have been changed a little bit. A bug that prevented fuel tanks on destroyers from receiving shrapnel and HE damage has been fixed. So there you go. We'll have to test out the damage models on those destroyers again, and also on a bunch of other stuff as well, just to see what is going on with them. And then on the 7th, there was one little small change. Basically, they fixed a bug that caused the loading screen to freeze after joining a battle. So you'd be, I'm guessing, stuck in the loading screen or stuck looking at the loading screen. That seems like quite an awful bug, which luckily I didn't have to experience, but nice to see that fixed. They also changed some other stuff on the 7th. The first big one was economy indicators, rewards and repair costs of vehicles where the BR was changed in the release of the Red Skies update have been returned to the level before update release. These unplanned changes were done mistakenly due to an increase in the maximum available vehicle BR. So pretty much all of the vehicles that went up into the higher echelons of the BR brackets, turns out that their modifiers were changed. Now, I heard a lot of people bringing this up to me, especially on the stream when we were streaming, and asking, why have rewards been nerfed? And I didn't think they were, to be quite honest with you, because as usual, when it comes to these updates, the first things that I research out and grind out are the lower echelon vehicles and work my way up. So I was playing the Concept 3, the Sagittario, and also the Marder. And the Sagittario, I mean, I researched in 6 games. Using the G55S, I was getting about 15,000 RP a game. You know, that wasn't an issue. But it seems like at the higher echelon of the game, it seems like at the highest tier of the game, what was happening was the rewards had been lowered, but also the repair costs had also been lowered, and therefore people were getting less SL and less RP, but they were also having to pay less repair costs. And the problem with this idea is if you're getting less rewards, yeah, it's fine if you have less repair costs to compensate, but one of the things that is still high at those BRs is the modification costs. And by researching the modification costs, if you're getting lower rewards, then you're overall going to lose money. So therefore, with the economy changes reverted, now if you do well, you'll be able to pay for the modification costs and the repair cost and new vehicles, which was what you could do before. Even in some of the vehicles which have been extremely expensive in War Thunder's history, such as the B-29, such as stuff like the STRV-122 when it was released, a few months after it was released, I was able to make a profit on them because of the fact that the multipliers are always at the same level as the repair cost. So as the repair cost increases, the amounts in battle, if you do more in battle, then you'll get more SL, and also the idea of not dying comes in as well. So even with the STRV-122A, when it was at the height of its highest repair costs, when it was at the highest echelon of the game, I was still making a profit with it, even when I was modifying it. So it's nice to see that those have gone back to what they were before. I think this is a positive change, and it's sad that a lot of people were affected by this. I'm glad that the change has been made, and I'm glad that they've also said it was unplanned, showing that it was a fault on their end of the system and not the players. The enduring confrontation as well has changed, so changed the logic of AI strike aircraft. Now even if the ground battle is over, but there are enough ground units left for the battlefield, AI strike aircraft will continue attacking them. And airfields in the location of Ruhr and Vietnam have also been converted to the rank system. So therefore, they'll have the SAMs at high ranks and all of that good stuff. In missions with the rank system of airfields, airfield modules now have the correct HP values. Previously, they may have had their HP value mistakenly set to 0, so therefore they would have been taken out incredibly easily. And all missions with old logic, AI Strike Aviation templates have been converted to the new version of the logic, previously used for Sicily and Denmark, in order to resolve old bugs that are corrected in the new logic, as well as to take another step towards migration of all EC missions to the new logic. So hopefully we can all be on that new logic wave. We also had a huge update today on the 9th. It was update 2.7.0.36 and also 4.2 and 3.3 for Xbox and PlayStation respectively, and this changed a bunch of things. This looks like more of a general update than just a ton of bug fixes, but there's a little bit of everything in it. So the first one is the driver in ground vehicles now switches gears more correctly when moving up or down a hill. This is a huge change. One of the changes that happened in the update is tanks with their tracks move more realistically, and the problem with this is this meant that a lot of vehicles when going up hills would get stuck in like second or third gear and wouldn't be able to power up the hill. I found this in the Marder. I actually commented many times on stream the fact that the Marder feels very sluggish uphill, but then I started playing other vehicles and realized this wasn't just a Marder thing, this was an everything thing. So hopefully now the drivers will switch into lower gears to push themselves up the hill, otherwise I'll have to do what I was doing before, which was to use manual engine controls. The Phantom FG1 and FGR2, they fixed a missing texture in the AIM-9GD missile pylon. That's lovely to see. The OS2U3 fixed a bug with obstructive view for the gunner. Lovely to see the Kingfisher getting a little bit of love. A bug that caused the radio menu to not work when playing with a gamepad for some players by using control settings different from standard. So flying out to an event, fire extinguisher, artillery strike has been fixed. Good stuff. Nice to see that. I definitely feel amazed by the people who can play War Thunder on a controller with the amount of buttons and things that have to, go in there. I can't even imagine playing War Thunder before the variable menu in it on a controller, and even now I think it is truly impressive to see people do it. It's something I definitely could never do on a full-time basis. Then some aircraft changes. So the Alouette 2, and for Germany and France, they fixed a bug where the MG sight might disappear whilst using the weapon selector. The Étendard, the 4M, fixed a bug where an antenna might remain when the tail is blown off. So that's a nice little change. Hopefully you don't get your tail blown off too often in that plane though. The Firefly FR Mark V fixed a bug that prevented installation of 250 or 500 pound bombs separately from rockets. This was actually an issue before the update. Basically, in order to take bombs, you had to be able to research the rockets modification as well, which is a bit of an issue because it means that you're limited on your ordnance and also the other modifications don't matter. The A109 EOA2 and the A129 CBT, so the Italian helicopters, fixed a bug that disabled stabilization from the gunner's view in certain sectors. Well, that's good, but it's also a very weird bug, I suppose. The SB2 All-Series bomb drop order has been corrected for DER-19 and DER-33 pylons, lovely to see. And the F-13, the thickness of the headrest has been corrected to 16 millimeters. Lovely stuff. My God. The Harrier GR3, the Jaguar GR1, Aviate-A and Aviate-C, the Phantom FGR1 and FGR2, the incorrect overload limit equal to 4Gs for launch AIM-9D and AIM-9G has been revoked. So now you should be able to fire them at much more extreme angles, which will be lovely. Also, the MiG-23M, they've increased its maximum indicated airspeed to 1400 kilometers per hour. So far, I've heard not great things about the MiG-23M. Not a surprise when you look at its actual real-life performance and what it was designed to do. Doesn't really work in a game which is close, which a lot of it devolves into a close furball at high ranks. For the MiG-23M to be useful, you would need a massive shift in the meta when it comes to high ranks, and I don't think that's going to happen at any point. It's because by making the MiG-23M more useful, you also make the Phantom more useful as well, because it would benefit as well from that more long-range gameplay. Ground vehicles as well had a few changes. So the Oswin and Oswin 2, they fixed a bug that prevented parts of the ammo rack from exploding even if the module had been destroyed or blackened. So that's good. And then a change which has been talked about for years, and it took the Japanese M47 to be added. The M47, the MKPZ M47, and the M47 Japonia, which is a wonderful name, instead of just Japan, gun depression angle has been corrected from -5 to -10 degrees. So finally, the M47 joins all of its brothers in the fact that now you will be able to put it down to 10 degrees of gun depression. The M48, the M60, the M46 all salute you. Finally, you won't have as bad gun depression. One of the biggest issues that the M47 has had for the longest time is finally fixed. The FV-102 Striker as well, the issues causing an inability to fire ATGMs after the commander was killed has been fixed. Well, that's nice to see. The good old Striker getting a bit of love. I've nearly spaded that thing. It's definitely a rough spade, but getting there.
Then we had some fleet changes as well. So the Ugamo, they fixed insufficient draft on it. Fair enough. The Belfast and the Liverpool, the armor type on specific elements has been fixed. So we'll have to see how that affects its damage model. The Baltimore, they fixed the type of armor decking on it. Good. The S204 Lang, the MG34 machine gun change to MG15s, so loses a little bit of firepower there. Actually, it might gain a bit of firepower depending on what range you're at. And then Xbox got a change, a bug that caused HDR mode to be active in the game on the Xbox Series X, even though it had been turned off in the settings of the console or displayed, has been fixed. Good stuff. A client crash also for PS4 starting a test flight in aircraft has been fixed. My god, that would have been incredibly annoying, so thank god they've fixed that. And then in VR, the game now launches correctly in VR mode using a WMR headset with the easy anti-cheat checkbox enabled in the launcher. Lovely stuff. So they did a big push for VR this update. They've done a big push for other stuff as well. Hopefully this sets us up for some next big updates when it comes to later in the year. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you are too. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.